Hello, I am Ny, and this is the Bible reading series with commentary in the end. If you have not watched the first, I suggest you do so because it has a bit of a disclaimer in it. I don't want you to have any presuppositions that are unnecessary that may lead you to misunderstand some things. This will be read out of the King James Version and then switch to New King James Version for commentary. I hope you stay till the end, and we will start as usual with the Lord's Prayer. After this manner, therefore, pray ye. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth, as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Truly, truly. Today's reading will be in Genesis 4. The heading here is Cain and Abel. There's quite a bit at the end, so let's get through this chapter here. And Adam knew Eve his wife, and she conceived and bare Cain, and said, I have gotten a man from the Lord. And she again bare his brother Abel, and Abel was a keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. And in process of time it came to pass that Cain brought of the fruit of the ground an offering unto the Lord. And Abel he also brought of the firstlings of his flock and of the fat thereof. And the Lord had respect unto Abel and to his offering. But unto Cain and to his offering he had no respect. And Cain was very wroth, and his countenance fell. And the Lord said unto Cain, Why art thou wroth, and why is thy countenance fallen? If thou doest well, shalt thou not be accepted? If thou doest not well, sin lieth at the door, and unto thee shall be his desire, and thou shalt rule over him. And Cain talked with Abel his brother. And it came to pass, when they were in the field, that Cain rose up against Abel his brother, and slew him. And the Lord said unto Cain, Where is Abel thy brother? And he said, I know not. Am I my brother's keeper? And he said, What hast thou done? The voice of thy brother's blood crieth unto me from the ground. And now art thou cursed from the earth, which hath opened up her mouth to receive thy brother's blood from thy hand? When thou tillest the ground, it shall not henceforth yield unto thee her strength. A fugitive and a vagabond shalt thou be in the earth. And Cain said unto the Lord, My punishment is greater than I can bear. Behold, thou hast driven me out this day from the face of the earth, and from thy face shall I be hid. And I shall be a fugitive and a vagabond in the earth, and it shall come to pass that every one that findeth me shall slay me. And the Lord said unto him, Therefore, whosoever slayeth Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. And the Lord set a mark upon Cain, and lest any finding him should kill him. And Cain went out from the presence of the Lord, and dwelt in the land of Nod, on the east of Eden. And Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bare Enoch, and he builded a city, and called the name of the city after the name of his son Enoch. And unto Enoch was born Irad, and Irad begat Mehujael, and Mehujael begat Methusael, and Methusael begat Lamech. And Lamech took unto him two wives. The name of the one was Adah, and the name of the other Zillah. And Adah bare Jabal. He was the father of such as dwell in tents, and of such as have cattle. And his brother's name was Jubal. He was the father of all such as handle the harp and organ. And Zillah, she also bare Tubal-Cain, an instructor of every artifice in brass and iron, and the sister of Tubal-Cain was Naamah. And Lamech said unto his wives, Adah and Zillah, Hear my voice, you wives of Lamech. Hearken unto my speech, for I have slain a man to my wounding, and a young man to my hurt. If Cain shall be avenged sevenfold, truly Lamech 70 and sevenfold. And Adam knew his wife again. She bare a son, called his name Seth, for God, said she, hath appointed me another seed instead of Abel, whom Cain slew. And to Seth, to whom also there was born a son, and he called his name Enos. Then began men to call upon the name of the Lord. This is the switch to commentary. There is quite a bit of context inside of this chapter. As we'll see in the Septuagint and its commentary here, the rabbi references the fact that he knew his wife, past tense here, as if it was done beforehand inside of the garden. Now this is this rabbi's commentary. Not that we should take this as, the letter of the law, but it is interesting to see what he has to say on this, because this was actually done before the banishing in this commentary. And it does say Cain, the name means I acquired. So Eve is saying that she acquired a son, and the I have acquired a man with the Lord comment is in this, that it was a three-part act. So if you remember beforehand that two become one flesh is in reference to making a child from insemination, this is now referencing the part where God comes in and creates the thing that man has started, basically. So it's there's three pieces to this. With the Lord, when he created me and my husband, he alone created us. But with this one, we are partners with him. So that's the commentary here. Now, some of this stuff, once again, it's not the letter of the law, so take it or leave it, but it does leave it interesting to wonder what exactly the original sin was. The next is the jobs that Abel and Cain did. So she bore her son, or the brother of Abel, the brother Abel, and Cain. And here it says that Abel was a shepherd and Cain was the worker of the ground. Since the ground was cursed, he refrained from working it. So Abel decided to not work of the ground because it was cursed. I guess I read the cursing of the ground maybe less literally, and it's more of work itself in general is cursed with pain and toil. But this here seems to be reading it quite literally, and it's saying that the ground was cursed because of our actions. Now it came to pass at the end of the days that Cain brought of the fruit of the soil of an offering to the Lord. Here, I guess in the Hebrew, and I've had to learn what Targum means. Basically, it's a translation that this is, the commentary says, of the most inferior. This is speaking on the fruit of the soil. And there is an Aggadah that states that it was flaxseed. So there's an implication in here that this fruit of the soil is flaxseed from the beginnings. So I'm not sure exactly what you can garner from that, but that's basically right here. It's saying that the fruit that Cain offered the Lord was flaxseed, and it was inferior in some way. Now, there is an extra bit to this, and it says another explanation of the fruit from whatever came to his hand, not the best and not the choicest. I can agree with this part here simply because Abel, he too brought of the firstborn of his flocks. So that Cain, here in this comment, says that Cain brought of the fruit of the soil an offering to the Lord. There's no specificity. However, with Abel, Abel brought the first of his flock and the fattest. So there's a choosing here of Abel and his offering versus Cain. So I personally can see that connection here, at least in our translation here, without any other pieces to add to that. So, and now we move to this turning, which I guess is a significant piece within inside of the context here. There was a fire that descended and consumed the offering, is kind of what it's saying with the turning of the Lord to Abel and his offering. Now, let me see here. Yeah. And we read it as respect unto Abel and his offering. So we can read this respect, I guess, into it, but he did not turn to what Cain offered. So that is where the following comes in. Now, this uses the word annoyed exceedingly, whereas here was very wroth, and his countenance fell. I do kind of prefer this annoyed over wrath, because I think sometimes we assume, the furthest extent before the beginnings. I guess more of a psychological approach would be, you're going to be annoyed before you have wrath. And to me, this here, but to Cain to his offering, he did not turn, and it annoyed Cain exceedingly, and his countenance fell. And the Lord said to Cain, why are you annoyed? Why has your countenance fallen? This annoyed, or I guess you could say anger, his wrath, and his fallen countenance was because the Lord decided to turn towards Abel and not Cain. However, Abel took the time to put effort into giving the best that he had, where Cain just gave his fruit here. So there may be some fair judgment on God's part about this. However, the learning point that I can see here is that, is it not so that if you improve, it will be forgiven you? If you do not improve, however, at the entrance, sin is lying, and to you is it longing, but you can rule over it. Let's read it in the King James. Actually, I'm going to switch to the New King James real quick. Yeah, see, and in New King James, instead of wrath or wrath, it's anger. A little bit more current time vernacular there. If you do well, will you not be accepted? And if you do not do well, sin lies at the door, and its desire is for you, but you should rule over it. Let's switch back to King James Version so that I'm not, I guess, called out for using different translations to prove my points. If thou doest well, shalt thou not be accepted, and if thou doest not well, sin lieth at the door, and unto thee shall be his desire, and thou shalt rule over him. Now, the reason why I'm becoming very particular with this is because in here, it says that if you improve, it doesn't say do well. Switch back to New King James. If you do well, will you not be accepted? It will be forgiven you. So this acceptance versus forgiveness thing is interesting as well. I know I'm kind of like starting to get really fine point to this, but it seems strange to me that it would read over here, if you do these things, if you do not do well, sin lies at the door. Why did it start with anger? Well, let me say it this way: why is it giving a command to do something when it's talking about an emotional thing. Let's also, I guess, pull back for a second. God is saying to Cain that he has a choice. There is a choice in this. There's a choice in this matter. Now, some people are going to balk at what I just said. However, I don't see anything else. God clearly says, why are you angry and why has your countenance fallen? If, there's the if. Now, some would try to argue foreknowledge and all these other things, but this is I can only read it one way. If. There's that word right there, if. You do well. It's not saying when you do well. It's not saying because I know you won't do well. It says if you do well. So there's a if you do or if you don't. That's clearly here. Nothing else is here. Now, what I will show here, and this is why I became skeptical of this whole if you do well thing, and now this will push back, and this gives credence to other ways. I'll say it this way. I'll say this one first. Is it not so that if you improve? Its explanation is as the Targum renders it. If you improve your deeds. Now, remember Targum being a translation, my understanding. Let's look at this word then. If thou doest well, and I'm going to probably butcher this, but yetab. Here's the outline of biblical usages. Now, there are two different variances, but there's an odd difference, and it's very small. To be good, be pleasing, be well, be glad. So, to be glad, to be joyful, to be placed, or to be well placed, to be well for, be well with, go well with, to be pleasing to make glad, rejoice, to do good, to deal with, deal well with, to do well, do thoroughly, to make a good thing good, or to make a thing good or right or beautiful, to do well, do right. Now, all of this is what you could call value-based. Glad, joyful, pleasing, rejoice, well, good. These are all value-based, and that's all internal. It's all an internal thing, right? What I'm trying to point to is this. It's odd that it says to have some type of action when the very first thing that it says is an internal struggle of your emotions. So, to read this, it would make sense in my head. This if you do well is not an action-based. It's not God telling Cain to do good things. He's saying, change the countenance of your heart. Change this fallen countenance, or sin lies at your doorstep and it desires, and its desire is for you. If I'm not mistaken, this desire, I have looked into this a little bit beforehand. This desire is a similar desire to a beast. Of beast desire. Now, another interesting part of this is of man for woman and of woman for man. So it's almost a lustful craving. So it is a very powerful visual thing. This beast that is lying there waiting to consume you. Now, to move forward from this, because I know that I've just spent quite a bit of time trying to prove my point, but here's the other point to this. Let's accept for a moment that it is to do well. That still does not change the fact that there's a choice to be made. And it did begin with Cain not choosing his firstborn of his flock, or the first fruits that he took from the ground. It was just a random offering of bits. There is maybe the idea that we should take the moment to offer God the right thing, to give to God the right thing. So, moving forward. Now Cain talked with his brother, and it came to pass when they were in the field that Cain rose up against Abel his brother and killed him. I believe over here there is a bit of commentary. It's small. So Cain spoke. Here is, he entered with him into words of quarrel and contention to find a pretext to kill him. The following is, there are agadic interpretations on this matter, but this is the plain meaning of the verse. So within inside of the context here, there's a plain meaning. It's meaning this interaction here between Cain spoke to Abel his brother. It was intentional. There was a intent involved, and that intent was to create words of quarreling and contention to find a pretext to kill him. And then the Lord asks, where's Abel your brother? Once again, God asking the rhetorical question to see how man responds. And I think that this is common. I think even in my own life, not to be hyper anecdotal, that we have these moments. God asks us the rhetorical question. Why are you doing this? Where is this thing? Just to see our response. Just to see our response. I do not know. Am I my brother's keeper? This statement here, and the commentary is just ironic to me in my head. But we'll go over, where's your brother, where is Abel your brother? To enter with him into mild words, perhaps he would repent and say, I killed him and I sinned against you. So even this questioning is giving an opportunity for man to respond in one way or another. And then it says, I do not know, from Cain. And here's commentary. The commentary from the rabbi is, he acted as if he could deceive the Most High. Now, I laugh twofold. First, the irony. But second of all, how many times have I done that myself? I'm trying to say something so I can deceive God. Really? Really? Am I my brother's keeper? This is a question asked in astonishment, as is like, who am I to watch over this guy? There's a reactiveness. Now, this is important because these are internal things expressed outwardly. Would be the best way for me to put it. So it's I guess bolstering my side of the argument. And maybe some people could call me reading between the lines, but it seems as if here Cain is being antagonistic. Like how dare you put this on me? But once again, that's not said here. But his comments are quite aggressive, or maybe not aggressive. They're intentional. And he said, what have you done? Hark, your brother's blood cries out to me from the earth. In Hebrew, the plural form, his blood and the blood of his descendants. Another explanation, he inflicted many wounds upon him because he did not know where his soul would depart. Basically, this was a very brutal killing. This wasn't just something like he didn't just like smack him over the head and he died and he was like, okay, no, he went to work with this. is what this is trying to express. So remember, if you do not improve, or is it not so that if you improve, it will be forgiven you? If you do not improve, however, at the entrance, sin is lying, and to you is its longing, but you can rule over it. You can rule over it. But what do we see here? The brutal death of his brother. And now you are cursed even more than the ground, which has opened its mouth to take your brother's blood from your hand. This is another moment where I have to say, it doesn't say God cursed him. It says because and now you are cursed even more than the ground. This isn't a direct curse from God. This is whatever happened has caused this curse, which has opened and has taken your brother's blood from your hand. Some of this is kind of, I guess, silly. For instance, even more than the ground, this cursing, it's commenting that the taste of the fruit, the failure to produce trees, and then it opened its mouth to take your brother's blood, and behold, I am adding it to it a curse concerning you, that it will not continue to give you its strength. I guess there's a lot more here that could be taken out of this curse that I've read before, but I see it as this thing now is even the work that you will do will be even more painful and less productive because of the things you have done. When you till the soil, it will not continue to give its strength to you. You shall be a wanderer and an exile in the land. This is the beginnings of the sojourning. Now, it's a concept that continues throughout the biblical text, but that will be for later time. Cain said to the Lord, "Is my iniquity too great to bear?" I guess I prefer the King James version now. I guess I'm flip-flopping and wishy-washy, but here it says, "My punishment is greater than I can bear." The commentary here, I guess, is imparting a concept of upper and lower worlds, and the iniquity is impossible for me, or Cain, the individual, to bear. But this is the consequence. This is the consequence of Cain, such as the consequence of Adam and Eve. And we're starting to see this continuous. If we do ill, then the byproduct is to be cursed. Now there's this big commentary here, which is simply to say, in my estimation, this sevenfold is referring to Cain's children, and we see Lamech later on kill him. But then, because the cursing, or the comment of sevenfold being his seventh child, we see all the way down here Lamech basically saying, "May it be 77." Yeah. If Cain shall be avenged sevenfold, then for Lamech it shall be 77-fold. So essentially, we'll get to it here in a second, but basically, Lamech is arguing that because he didn't intend it like Cain did, that he should have an extension. And then we have the placing of a mark, which I find interesting, just knowing the little that I do of the end of the Bible. There's a mark that's placed on man. And this is the very first time we see a mark in this verse. And the Lord said to him, "Therefore, whoever kills Cain, vengeance will be wrought upon him sevenfold." And the Lord placed a mark on Cain, that no one who find him slay him. Now, in this commentary, the find him and slay him is referring to animals. There's like this implication, I guess, for us in current times to assume that meant people. But the only people that we know of at the time was Adam and Eve. So his parents are probably not going to kill him, though. I mean, he did just kill his brother, so it's not that family won't. It's just the commentary says that it's most likely beasts that it's referring to. And then Cain went forth and dwelt in the land of the wanderers. Once again, we start to see this sojourning, this to be in the land that is not their own, which is, I guess we could say, back in chapter 3. I should have picked up on that. Was actually the very first time that we see it, the sojourning from the garden where we were intended to be into a land that's not ours. Cain had his kid Enoch, which I will say is interesting because Seth's son is Enos, which is very close, and built a city, and they named it after him. Bunch of children, but simply the whole point of the children being spoken of here is that Lamech is his seventh. And then it says Lamech took to him 2 wives. There is a good bit of commentary here on exactly how to read these 2 wives and what was expected of them, one being marital, one being for propagation, and that there was I don't want to say soma, but a drink that was to sterilize them. And it's very interesting. If you find that interesting, I suggest going to the Chabad.org and looking up the Tanakh, because, and that's what this is it's the Tanakh, the Hebrew Bible, Torah, Pentateuch, and then I'm not even going to try that, but Genesis. This large commentary here is about the 2 wives, and I've never actually come across this, and so why I'm even hesitating to comment on this is because there's so much in it, and I'm not sure exactly what I think of it quite yet. So I suggest getting in and reading it. Anyways, in the Bible, there's really not a whole lot to say about it, and that's why I guess I don't feel it necessary. And then there is an interesting piece here about Tubal-Cain once we get into Lamech's children. He has 2 children. One is for lyre and flute, and the other one is for copper and iron, which is interesting because it doesn't seem to be very much distance from the creation of man in the biblical text to when copper and iron were created, which is, I just find it personally interesting. Maybe there is historical significance to be found there, in my opinion. Maybe they're already doing that, or maybe it's already been done and people are trying to hide this, but I don't know. All I'm trying to say is that I find it interesting that iron here and copper are being spoken about early on. And then here's, I guess, the important part. Lamech hearkens to his wives. What that means is to be intimate with him again, because they backed away from him after he literally killed his grandfather and killed his son, which here we see kind of the context of what bruising your heel is, and in the curse to the women. So think about it like this. Every single person that is killed will have children, right? See, that lineage is now cut off. No one will come from that person. They're dead. They can't have children. So, even from the very beginning, there is this concept of, killing is not a good thing. which, I mean, kind of obvious by the consequence of Cain and Abel, but it's expressing how Abel's children will no longer be. There isn't a family tree from Abel. Anyways, enough on that. Essentially, Lamech unintentionally, quote unquote, killed Cain, and Lamech is his seventh kid. The next, because he unintentionally, quote unquote, killed his grandfather, or Cain, and his son, which in here it basically says he was hard of seeing. I don't know where that comes from, but Lamech is basically hard of seeing, and so he didn't actually intend on killing Cain, and so forth. But he cries out and says, Cain shall be avenged sevenfold, then for Lamech it shall be 77-fold. He's arguing that because it was unintentional, he should get an extension to it. Then finally at the end, try to wrap up within... I try not to make these too long, but wrap up with Adam knowing his wife again and bearing a son. Which I guess is kind of interesting because the very beginning of this thing, the knowing, this is knew his wife, so maybe there's something that is referencing the point that one is intended to be a further in the past knowing, and then this one knowing is not as far in history. Essentially what I'm trying to say is it's interesting that it's using kind of the same vernacular, but one is meaning in the garden, the other one's not. I don't understand the differentiation there, but knew his wife, and the child's name was Seth. In the commentary, it says, Lamech came to the first man, Adam, and complained about his wives. He, Adam, said to them, Is it for you to be so strict concerning the decree of the Omnipresent? You perform your commandments, and he will do his. They, the wife, said to him, Correct yourself. First, haven't you separated from your wife already 130 years since death was decreed because of you? Immediately, and Adam knew. This is to say that his desire for Eve was increased above his previous desire. Once again, reading a lot of stuff that I guess I just can't see, and probably important why we read the rabbi's commentary here. I guess there was an exchange that happened with Lamech's wives, or the women, and Adam, and basically they told Adam to fix yourself. You did not know your wife for 130 years after basically the garden. So there was 130 years that they did not know each other in these terms. So that's pretty wild to even to perceive. And then finally, into Seth, also to him a son was born, and he named him Enosh. And then it became common to call by the name of the Lord. I'm not so sure about this, but once again, this is the expression. There's a nuance in the words that basically says profaneness, to name people and idols with the name of the Holy One. Blessed be he. To make them idols and to call them deities. So here we see at the very end that this is the beginnings of calling things godly that isn't godly, which is not very well expressed here, because even if we read the New King James, it says, and as for Seth, to him also a son was born, and he named him Enosh. Then men began to call on the name of the Lord. I'm not sure exactly how to read that, and I'm not so certain that is absolutely correct, but this here is showing the beginnings of idol worship instead of idol worship and the worship of man. instead of the holy ones, or the Holy One, God. So hopefully you found this interesting. Hopefully you found it worth your time to ruminate about today. I will be trying to myself, all things considered. And this is And Why, the Bible reading series and commentary. I'll see you next time.